Well, let's continue this discussion with the Jewish Board of Deputies. Its Gauteng chairperson, Danny Mofsowitz, joins us live now. Danny, good morning. Welcome to eNCA. I'd like to start with your reaction on the latest developments that we saw overnight, the U.S. airstrikes, of course, on Iran. Your thoughts on that?
Good morning, Jenna Lee, and good morning to your viewers. I think it's important to get the history of this conflict that has led up to this point. Since the 1980s, when the Iranian regime came into power, they have continually repeated their intention to wipe Israel off the map. As a Jewish people, we've sadly learned that when leaders, especially these extremist regime leaders, call for the destruction of a people, we need to sit up and listen, because words become actions. We saw Hitler's words become actions when he killed 6 million of our people. More recently, we've seen Hamas's words of wanting to eliminate Israel become action with the 7th of October massacre. So in the last few weeks, when intelligence revealed that it was possible for Iran's words to become actions, and that their nuclear program was advancing to stages that they could launch a very dangerous war against Israel and fulfill their promise of wiping Israel off the map, Israel launched preemptive strikes against key military sites in Iran. And they continue to target these military sites and the leadership of the Iranian regime. Since Israel's preemptive strike last Friday, Iran has launched over 450 missiles and 400 drones into Israel with the intention of fulfilling this promise of wiping Israel off the map. Israelis have spent the majority of the last 9 days in bomb shelters and under varying degrees of lockdown. Fortunately, most of the missiles have been intercepted by some incredibly advanced defense systems, but some have landed and 24 people have been killed, with about 1,300 injured. So on Thursday, the Soroka hospital was hit by an Iranian missile. On Friday, a mosque in Haifa, northern Israel, was hit and worshippers were injured. Both of these places, no military presence at all, civilian sites. So in terms of Israeli involvement with Iran, there is an existential threat to the existence of Israel.
With the background then that you've just sketched for us in mind, Danny, we do see that U.S. President Donald Trump is calling on Tehran to, and I quote, make peace. That's following those bombs that was launched over the evening. Do you think that this action will lead to peace, or do you think it might actually escalate the tension that we are seeing right now?
I think that Donald Trump has made it clear that he wants to see peace. He wants to see conflicts resolved. There was always a threat. I mean, this threat has been ongoing as long as Iran has evolved their nuclear capabilities, enriched uranium. That was really, it was when it got to a point where there was this capability of a full-blown attack on Israel, there was intervention that was needed. That would have seen a huge escalation in war in that region.
Let's shift our attention to Palestine for a moment. Why is it important for the South African Jewish community to stand in solidarity with Palestinians right now, Danny?
I'm sorry, can you please repeat that question?
Certainly. I'm asking, why do you believe it's important for the South African Jewish community to stand in solidarity with Palestinians right now?
I think the solidarity of the South African Jewish community is with Israel. And although, I mean, this is a terrible, terrible war and our hearts break for all civilian life that is lost. The Jewish community, there is a solidarity with Israel. We also need to acknowledge how this conflict began, Jenna Lee. On the 6th of October, 2023, there was a ceasefire. The 7th of October, we saw Hamas terrorists breach the border of Israel, and they killed, raped, and kidnapped innocent Israeli civilians. So the excess of 1,500 people were massacred by Hamas on the 7th of October. 250 were kidnapped and taken into Gaza. And from the 8th of October, the conditions of the war stopping from Israel's side it's always been that the hostages must be released and Hamas must be demilitarized. To this day, those conditions remain. There are still 53 hostages who are being kept in the tunnels of Gaza. And the condition is still that if those hostages are released and if Hamas drops their weapons and demilitarizes, returns the hostages, the war will end. There is a pretty quick solution to the end of this war. And of course, all peace-loving South Africans and citizens of the world would like to see the end of this bloody war.
Well, what role do you think that human rights organizations or bodies like yourself play in shaping the narrative on the Israel-Palestine war locally? What role are you playing?
Well, I think it's very important for both sides of this war for the narratives to be articulated. I think it's also very important for our civil rights organizations to call on our government to get around a table and to negotiate a peace deal between Gaza and Israel, and really to use their relationships with Hamas. We know that the South African government is uniquely positioned in that they do have a relationship with Hamas, and we would love to see that relationship being utilized to create peace. We know that the government took Israel to the ICJ, and unfortunately, even that move has not saved a single life. We really believe, and we call on the government to utilize their relationships to create a lasting peace in that region.
Well, speaking about positions, as you know, Danny, not everybody, of course, on the side where you are in South Africa. Yesterday, we saw that march that my colleague Pulele Treaty-Jones was reporting from, and there's actually calls mounting for the Israeli embassy in South Africa to be shut down. Your response to that?
Well, when it comes to marches and protests, what we've seen is that these marches actually have no interest in peace. If they genuinely wanted peace, there would be a call for both parties to get back to the negotiating table. There would be a call for Hamas to disarm and release hostages, and for people of Gaza to be freed from Hamas rule. They serve for the sole purpose, as you've mentioned, of demonizing Israel, the only Jewish state in the world. Generally, it's a tiny, tiny piece of land, smaller than the size of the Kruger National Park, and surrounded by Arab countries, 250 times bigger than her. I think it would be disastrous to close the embassy. That means then closing the Israeli embassy would mean that all diplomatic ties between countries are severed. And I think that would be absolutely disastrous to South Africa and to Israel.
Well, I really do appreciate your time this morning here on eNCA. Danny, thank you so much for sharing your views with us. That was Danny Mofsowitz, the chairperson of the SA Jewish Board of Deputies right here in Gauteng. Of course, this will be a conversation that will continue.